Today, you will meet the autonomous AI agent that ends your calendar ping pong and calendar negotiation for good. In this video, I'll show you how you can build an AI agent that acts as your executive assistant who schedules meetings on your behalf. This appointment setter multi-agent system gave me back more than 40 hours last quarter. That's literally a whole extra work week saved for me. This AI agent books meetings while you sleep because it has access to every calendar you connect. It respects the time zones, weekends, and holidays, and it never double books. If your calendar is already booked, it proposes alternative time slots in minutes and not days, and it sends out the invites automatically, so recipients get a confirmed Google or Outlook even before you open the email. If you don't know me, my name is Betty, and over the past few years, I've booked over 2,000 qualified sales-accepted meetings and generated over $20 million in qualified pipeline value with over 60 multi-agent systems in production that send millions of AI-personalized cold emails, LinkedIn messages, and lifecycle marketing emails. These AI agents handle my work autonomously on a day-to-day basis, saving tens of hours for me every single week, allowing me to focus on higher-level tasks. I'm not claiming I'm an expert, but I'm here to share what I wish existed when I was starting out. On screen now, I've brought you some receipts from positive replies to our AI personalized cold emails that we recently sent out to cold prospects. Feel free to stop the video. This is something that AI agents are capable of today. Now let's dive right in. In today's video, we're going to zoom into the calendar scheduling and appointment setting capabilities of our AI BDR agent system. This is a bird's eye view of the whole system that you can see here. The main parent agent is AI BDR Max, that's responsible for orchestrating everything between these sub-agents. And today we're not going to zoom into the sales strategist that's responsible for creating in-depth research, or the outreach manager that's responsible for creating hyper-personalized email sequences, or the follow-up manager that's responsible for creating personalized follow-up subsequences for your interested prospect. We are going to zoom into a module of the message reply specialist, and this is going to be appointment setter Sally and Chad, the calendar availability checker. And so these agents are going to be responsible for figuring out if the prospect has requested a time to meet and if we have the opportunity to actually set up a time with them. And they're also going to be responsible for negotiating the best times to meet. We have built this multi-agent system in Relevance AI. This is one of the best AI agent building platforms. So here's the parent agent. And in this view, we also see the different tools that are connected to our agents. I'm not going to zoom into these in depth. You can watch my other videos. We're going to scroll down here and look at the modules that are being used when a prospect sends a reply to us. The parent agent then delegates to the message reply specialist. This message reply specialist has many tools available to retrieve the email thread, triage and label the reply, extract the questions and objections if there's any, and then tap into an internal knowledge base. So the agent avoids hallucination when it replies to the questions or objections. And it also decides whether there's any type of escalation needed. So the escalation is going to be targeted towards us, the human in the loop. If the agent is unable to propose a factual reply to the question or objection that a prospect has raised, that's going to escalate. And finally, it's going to compose the message reply itself. These were all the tools that this agent has, but it also has an agent connected to it, appointment setter Sally, that's responsible for negotiating and setting the appointments with the prospect if in their reply they have indicated the willingness to meet. Appointment setter Sally will have the ability to send a Google or Outlook invite to the prospect, and it can also delegate further to a calendar availability checker. So what happens here is when we receive a reply, we delegate to the message reply specialist, and depending on that reply, the message reply specialist delegates to appointment setter Sally that before sending an invite to the prospect, it's going to check if there is available times in our own calendar or the prospect owner's calendar. Just imagine that you have a bigger sales team, let's say 5 members, and you have a prospect owner within that sales team, right? Based on region or any lead rotation or lead assignment criteria that you have. Then the agent needs the ability to read each of your sales team members' calendar and check all the busy periods and only propose available times that is actually available, and then only send an invite if the prospect has the willingness to meet and we don't have to convert them anymore. So the calendar availability checker has the ability to enrich a user based on Google and LinkedIn scrapes. It extracts the location information of the prospect from LinkedIn. It gets the prospect owner's details from our knowledge base. So this would be the relevant sales team member to whom this prospect is assigned to. It's going to convert the prospect availability, if they have mentioned any in their email, into the prospect's time zone, so we can transform that. And finally, we can retrieve the availability from our sales team's calendar. Now let's zoom into a specific example that I prepared. If we zoom into Max, the AI BDR, this agent is responsible for orchestrating everything between the different sub-agents. The whole flow was started with a HubSpot task. I just named this task calendar negotiation. And we gave the instruction to the agent to reach out to Nick Feeney from Loom. Eventually, I used my own email. So this is my personal email address. And I was playing a back and forth with this prospect here. And first, this agent has delegated to the sales strategist. The sales strategist has done its deep research, running 19 different tools, all kinds of LinkedIn scrapes and Google searches. You can check out my videos for an in-depth overview of this system. And then it returned an in-depth research about the prospect back to the parent agent, Max, the AI BDR. And using this research, Max has delegated to an outreach manager, passing all this research down the line to the sub-agent. So this is the actual research that the sales strategist has prepared for us. And the outreach manager has generated a cold email sequence using all these inputs. It has generated a 4-touch hyper-personalized cold email sequence from which Max, the AI BDR, has sent out the first touch. Something like, hey Nick, notice your January 29th LinkedIn post about Loom's emphasis on whatever. And then we have a call to action here. Would you be interested in a chat? The agent has also provided us an update. So this is just for us humans, the user. And then Nick has responded to us saying, hey Ben, could be interesting. Is it done for you or done with you, considering the service that we provide? Also asking how much we deliver versus how much they would need to build. And there's one very specific question, whether we support German language. So this is the first reply that we received from the prospect. This is a cold outbound use case where we have reached out to the prospect with our personalized cold emails, and they have come back to us with a specific reply, asking a few questions, having some objections. I would still categorize this prospect into an interested or information request type of category. So this is positive. When this agent receives a reply, it cancels every tasks that it had, because at this stage, it has created 4 tasks to send out the 4 separate email touches. And it has done one, then it scheduled the next one 5 days from now. And so when someone replies, we obviously want to cancel the whole sequence. After canceling the sequence, Max, the AI BDR, has delegated to the message reply specialist, who has eventually returned a reflection that this prospect was categorized into the information request category because they asked a bunch of questions. And it has also proposed an email draft to us. This is what we call inbox management. And in this case, there was no request for a time to meet. So we have simply replied to this prospect answering their questions. This came from our knowledge base. We have a dedicated knowledge base here in a Google Sheet with frequently asked questions and answers. And so this agent has looked up that knowledge base and has provided all these details based on that knowledge base. It has also asked the call to action in a very personalized manner. Would you be open for a quick chat to explore how this could work for you on the German market? Because one of the questions was, hey, can you work with us on the German market? After we have sent this email, we've also enrolled this prospect into a follow-up sequence, because this prospect now is interested, but we haven't closed the loop with them just yet. We haven't converted them to a meeting. Therefore, we put them into a personalized subsequence that looks something like this. Again, we share a bunch of information with this subagent, including the in-depth research and the latest reply. I think it's a 4-touch sequence, which is basically a follow-up sequence that the agent has scheduled to send out. Because if the prospect isn't responding, then we want to bump these emails in their inbox. We want to convert them to a meeting. We've also scheduled a few tasks here. But before the next follow-up touch could have gone out, we've received a reply. Yeah, sounds good. Let's open a call next week, Monday. Now, if we look at my calendar, we'll see that Monday is actually blocked completely. So this is CET, where I'm based, and the prospect is in San Francisco or Los Angeles time zone. So there's no available time, obviously. So the expectation here would be that the agent is able to look at the calendar and come back with another proposal saying that, hey, unfortunately, Monday is not available for us. And so after this reply, the agent has canceled the sequence, because if you remember, we have created a bunch of tasks to the agent to send the follow-up emails. So we had to cancel that completely. And the parent agent has delegated to the message reply specialist again. But in this case, we have a very specific request when it comes to a specific time for next week. So the message reply specialist has to be able to reason based on this latest reply and understand that we need to check the prospect owner's calendar, who is in this case myself, Benedek, and we will need to check this prospect owner's calendar to find if the time that the prospect has proposed is still available for us. When the message reply specialist received this task, it first used the retrieve email thread content tool that has delivered the whole thread to us. This is the output. And we have passed this output, the full email thread content, in this weird format. It looks weird, but the LLM is able to understand this because it's a JSON object. We've passed this into this tool. Let me zoom into this quickly. There is a chain of thought reasoning within an LLM step into which we passed all the details about the email thread and the latest reply. And we also define the different labels that this LLM should attach to this email thread. So it could be not relevant, meeting request, meeting confirmation, out of office, or interested, unsubscribe, and so on and so forth, or even information request. And so finally, when this tool runs, it is going to output a label in a simple format. So one of these labels, and it's also going to tag the conversation in the message reply specialist. So now I'm going to zoom into the message reply specialist and this very specific task. So this is the task here that you see. And you'll also notice that we have tagged this task in the message reply specialist agent as meeting request. And this tag was given by the triage and label email reply tool. We also output the next step from a meeting request perspective, helping the job of the next subagent, which is going to be appointment setter Sally. So we pass all this information downstream, giving the instruction to appointment setter Sally to provide an available time slot for a call with our prospect on Monday next week. And it also knows what is the current date. So this is 6th of June. And this agent is going to further delegate to a calendar availability checker agent, who is then going to retrieve the relevant times from our calendar. You see the agent message. It was triggered by appointment setter Sally. So again, going back to our flowchart, right now we are here on this level at the very bottom. And the calendar availability checker first will retrieve the prospect owner's availability. It's going to look at a knowledge base that contains all our sales team members. It looks like this. So we have an email, the meeting booking link, the name of the sales rep, the start and end working hours, the time zone, and a Zoom link as well if we wanted to send an invite to the prospect. We also have a fallback here. So if the agent wasn't able to figure out who is the prospect owner in the given instance, that's going to fall back to me. But in this case, let's just run this tool and let's see what it comes back with. So now when the tool run finished, we can go under the hood and look at each step's output. First of all, we run a query on the Google Sheet. So I have connected my account and it looks at my drive and it looks at this spreadsheet here, which is called AI GTM Lab Sales Team Members. It's going to retrieve this data here. I can open these up. It looks a bit funny. So it's outputting the different columns in these different objects. So I run another tool step to make it nicer and to transform this. So this is now exactly the same as the knowledge base that I keep up to date. And then we pass this knowledge base into an LLM step that is going to match the prospect owner with the person from the knowledge base. How do we know the prospect owner? This prospect owner is coming from the agent. So we know the prospect owner details. In this case, the detail that we know is the email address from which we have sent out the outbound email sequence. So this is my email address. And so when this LLM receives that email address, it's going to be able to find that email address here, and it's going to return the whole row with the email, the fallback, the meeting booking link, and then so on and so forth. So all the details that are necessary for me. And so the way I work with this knowledge base is sometimes when a new team member joins the team, I change this here. Or if I want to completely exclude myself from the rotation, then I simply just delete the working hours, for example. And so then I can keep the agent up to date. Now let's go back to the Get Prospect Owner Availability tool. So this is the output that we received after retrieving our knowledge base about our sales team members. And zooming out, again, just to remind ourselves, we are on the calendar availability checker agent level. So this agent is a sub-agent of the message reply specialist and the appointment setter, Sally. And so these agents are communicating in a downstream manner back and forth between each other. And so the calendar availability checker is able to retrieve a sales team member's calendar. And so it is able to pull all this information here. Now, going back to the agent itself, the next step is to transform the prospect availabilities in the prospect's time zone into half-an-hour meeting blocks. Because if we look at the original agent trigger, what we know is that this prospect has asked for Monday, June 9, 2025. But for the agent to work with this data, it's going to have to break this availability into half-an-hour blocks. And so this is what this tool is doing. The output is half-an-hour blocks. So this is Monday, 9 a.m. with a 7-hour offset. Now, let's look into this tool and let's see how it works. Now that the tool run finished, we can look into the individual steps with the actual result. So we run a quick code step to get today's date. Even though the LLMs these days, especially O4 Mini, so a reasoning model these days, should know the current date, I usually like to make sure that I still pass the current date that I get with a code step. So I run the code step first to get today's date, and then I pass that into the LLM. Then we run this LLM to receive an output that looks like this, but with the current date and time and knowing the requested time and the prospect's location. So if this prospect is based in San Francisco, California, and they have requested Monday, June 9, 2025, and we know that today's date is the 6th of June, then what are the 30-minute increments that we should output that align with the prospect's requested times in the prospect's time zone? So that's what this LLM step does. And so the final result is going to be an array with the 30-minute blocks for the given day with the 7-hour UTC offset. The large language model steps in Relevance AI are not able to return real JSON objects. Even though this output looks like a JSON, we still need to run this tool step, which is a convert JSON-like text into real JSON. So when we go back to the message reply specialist and the calendar availability checker sub-agent, zooming out, we will see that the output of the previous tool was passed here into the input of the next tool, which is responsible for retrieving the calendar of the contact owner. The contact owner is going to be the sales team member who is assigned to that contact, right? And so this information comes from the previous tool. We're using Google Calendar. We input the current date and time as well, again, for the same reasons as we discussed before. The meeting booking link to make the prospect's job easier to book a time with us, even though we're going to propose times for them manually. The meeting duration is 30 minutes, and the minimum notice period for which the prospects can book a time is 24 hours. This is the prospect's email address, their full name, and we can also set the prospect's working hours. So in this case, I say 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The agent knows the prospect's location, and now it knows the prospect's time zone offset as well. And we also know the prospect owner details. Again, this JSON object, if you remember, is coming from a previous tool run. This is directly fetched from our knowledge base that contains the sales team members. And we also define a 4-week rolling time period. So we're interested in finding availability in the sales team calendar for the next 4 weeks. Now, some of these inputs are dynamic inputs that the agent is able to set, while some of them are manually set inputs. So for example, I have defined the 4 weeks rolling time period, as well as the prospect working hours and the minimum notice period and the meeting duration on the tool settings level. So if we open this tool on a new tab, we can actually see the inputs that are dynamic inputs and the agent is supposed to fill dynamically versus the inputs that are manual inputs filled by the humans. So in this case, these are the ones that should be set manually. So the meeting duration, the calendar client, the rolling time period, and so on and so forth. Whereas the rest here are all dynamic. So these were received from the previous tool runs. So the time zone offset and these 30-minute meeting blocks, as well as the prospect details and the current time. Now, let's go back to this tool here. The final output of this tool mentions whether it was possible to find times that were matching for both the prospect and the sales team's calendar. In this case, it wasn't possible because, again, if you remember, it requested for Monday, but Monday is completely blocked out for our sales team. So the first appointment that we can propose for them is 9:30 a.m. LA or East Coast time, because 7 p.m. is the end of our own sales team's working hours. So if we go into the details here, you'll see that 7 p.m. is the last time where we can propose. So this would be the only time that we can propose to the prospect. And unfortunately, it wasn't possible to find matching times for Monday. So this is the expectation from this tool. And here we see that there were no matching times, but we were able to suggest alternative time slots. So 9:30 a.m. Wednesday, 11th June, which is this time here. So after this tool ran, it gave the final response back to the agent, calendar availability checker. And this agent outputted the suggested availabilities, which is Wednesday, 11th June. And unfortunately, it wasn't possible to find matching times. And it passed back to appointment setter Sally, who reflected on this decision that the prospect has asked for Monday, June 9th. But unfortunately, after checking the prospect owner's availability, there were no open slots for Monday. And the earliest availability was Wednesday, 11th, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And appointment setter Sally has given this message back to the message reply specialist that then ran some other tools, for example, extract questions and objections. In this case, there were no questions or objections in the prospect's latest reply. And so when it comes to retrieving the answer to these questions and objections, obviously it wasn't relevant because there were no questions and objections. It wasn't necessary to escalate because there were no questions and objections. And finally, it has composed the final email reply, which looks like this. Hey, Nick, sounds good. Unfortunately, Monday is fully booked, but hey, here is what I can offer. So Wednesday, June 11th, 9:30 a.m. After getting this draft email, the agent has reflected on what happened. So this includes appointment setters Sally's reflection, as well as these tool runs reflection. And it passes back this whole message to AIBDR Max, the parent agent. So coming back to the parent agent, this is how this looks like. So this is the message reply specialist's reflection with the email draft. And Max has taken this draft and sent out this email to the prospect. The prospect then came back saying that unfortunately Wednesday doesn't work because I'm back to back, but Thursday or Friday could work. Again, what would Max do in this case? He's going to run the message reply specialist to find new availabilities and to negotiate the times when we could meet. So it goes through the email retrieval process. It's going to tag the latest reply. It's going to delegate to appointment setter Sally. In this case, the email thread now contains other content as well as the latest reply will be different. And the instructions in this case ask for Thursday or Friday Pacific time next week. In the following steps, appointment setter Sally delegates to the calendar availability checker with these times requested, Thursday, Friday next week Pacific time. And the calendar availability checker is going to go through the same process as we just looked at. So it retrieves the prospect owner details. It generates these 30-hour blocks now for 2 days, so Thursday and Friday next week. And then it retrieves the sales team members' calendar for these prospect availabilities that the prospect has proposed for us. And it returns that actually Thursday, 12th June, 9 a.m. or 9:30 are available. And it passes this information back to the calendar availability checker, who then passes all this information back to appointment setter Sally. So zooming out again. So we started from here and then we were moving up on this agent chain back to the message reply specialist, and then finally back to Max, the AI BDR, who's then responsible for sending out the emails. So this is how this looks like in action. So again, I'm going up one level. So now we are on the message reply specialist level. Again, there were no questions or objections. So it was a pretty easy workflow here until composing the message reply. And finally, the message reply specialist sends the reply back to AI BDR Max, who then sends the final email. Sure, I can offer these time slots on Thursday, 9 a.m. and 9:30. And finally, the prospect sends this reply saying, okay, 9:30 a.m. works. And we delegate to the message reply specialist once again. But in this case, we're going to book in the time as well, because finally we came to an agreement and a conclusion. So when we zoom into appointment setter Sally, we notice that this agent, besides delegating to the calendar availability checker, it has also used a tool that has the capability to send a Google or Outlook calendar invite to the prospect. Let's look at what the calendar availability checker has returned to us. In this case, it has concluded that we should create a calendar event because there were matching times found between what the prospect wanted and the availability that we have in our calendar. And so it passed this verdict back to appointment setter Sally, who then reasoned to use this tool and send out a calendar invite. And so here's the reflection. So the prospect has selected Thursday, June 12, 9:30 Pacific time. And after checking the availability, we have sent them a calendar invite to Thursday, June 12th. Let's look at how this looks like. So this is the one invite that we have sent out. This invite was sent to 9:30 a.m. Pacific, which is 6:30 p.m. Central European time. And so finally, after creating this meeting invite, we passed this reflection back to the message reply specialist, who then addressed this email to the AI BDR, who then finally sends the final confirmation email out to the prospect, saying, perfect, just sent over the calendar invite for Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Looking forward to discussing how we can support Loon's expansion into the German market. So it bakes some personalization into the confirmation email as well. That's it for today. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share this template with you. In my next video, I'm going to present the inbox manager with some more complex use cases and objections and questions. And I'll show you how you can use a knowledge base so the agent doesn't hallucinate. Let's keep in touch. See you in the next video. Now, bye-bye.